I have seen over the years a number of people not quite understand what feminism actually is. The number one thing seems to be that people think feminism is the same as misandry, the practice of actively discriminating against men. Feminism is about lifting up femininity. And what is that? Well, femininity is like having dolls. As you can see, I have a few in frame back here. Femininity is doing things like crying and expressing any emotion besides horniness and anger. Feminine activities include maybe sewing or like babysitting or taking care of other people in general. There are a lot of ways that femininity is looked down upon in our society, and feminism looks to erase those stigmas for people. Now, this helps not only women, but everybody in general, because it is all about letting people live and doing whatever they feel like. It's not about lowering anybody down to a specific level. Rather, it's about raising everybody up so that we can be treated as equals, regardless of our biological sex and regardless of our gender identity, regardless of who we are as human beings. Feminism is about putting everything on an equal ground and respecting that. Respecting that not everybody is going to be conforming to the exact same set of rules just because they have a penis or a vagina. It's really that simple. It's a very live and let live kind of style of life. In society overall, like I was saying earlier, femininity is considered to be inferior in a lot of ways. Femininity is considered to be subservient. A lot of jobs that are care-oriented tend to be feminized, like looked upon as woman's work, and as such, they also tend to be kind of lower paying jobs. Like teachers in general, we kind of all agree that teachers are not paid enough, and that is a job that is considered to be more on the feminine side of things. Anything involving customer care and customer service, those are typically the lowest paid people in our society, generally speaking, and care for others and servicing other people is considered to be a feminine activity according to our society, whereas masculinity is considered to be more dominant, more in charge, more all about like having power and staying strong both physically and mentally, even though what we consider to be mental strength is very toxic and is not at all what actual mental strength should entail. Going back to the femininity aspect and how this would benefit everybody. Femininity and masculinity in equal shares should be things that people should feel free to express, no matter what. There is no shame in me owning dolls, like cuddling with my dolls. There's no shame in me learning how to sew if I want to sew. There should be no shame in just doing anything that is considered to be more feminine. That also includes appearing more feminine. Feminism would allow men to wear skirts and wear dresses and wear wigs and put on makeup and just kind of do whatever they feel like with their bodies, because there's nothing wrong with that. And that's the entire idea of feminism, is that whatever you decide to do with your own life and your own body, as long as you're not encroaching on other people's lives and telling them that they have to be this specific way, that's okay. Just do it. There is no reason to feel shame for doing things that you're interested in. Men practicing femininity would help kind of free us from the bounds of the more toxic side of masculinity, which, no, toxic masculinity and just plain masculinity are not the same thing. It's toxic when it gets to the point of causing others harm. When you are practicing your masculinity by whistling at random women on the street and making them feel uncomfortable, or threatening women when they reject you, or by exploding at your partner because you can't hold down your anger anymore and you don't know any other ways to express yourself, like that is when masculinity becomes toxic. It's when it starts to poison your own mind and start holding you down, and then also starts holding everybody else down around you because you are not coping well with how your life is going. So feminism is definitely all about letting people live their best lives with zero judgment. It is the most you do you credo that could possibly ever exist. And the false ideas that it is anything other than that are exactly that. They are false. Feminism is not about women are all powerful. It is not about men are nothing but the worst and no man anywhere can possibly ever be as good as any woman anywhere. The idea that all women do have to be wary of all men is unfortunately true, but that's because empirical evidence has dictated that the vast majority of women who just exist in general have had to deal with at least one man doing something terrible to them. I bet if you are a woman watching this or just know any woman at all, you or they have probably had a run-in with a man that involved them being forced to do something that they didn't want to do, or involved them being hurt, or involved them being emotionally manipulated, or something, like anything in that realm. And that's why all men need to be very wary that all women are going to be skeptical of them at first, because our society has put women into a state of victimhood so much, so frequently, and so severely that women always have to be on guard around men that they don't know. And even around men that they do know, because the majority of cases of like rape and assault happen from men that women already know. So when women make these generalized statements about men being this way or being that way, don't take it personally, because even though you may not have done any of the things that they're talking about, they're not sure that you wouldn't. And that's what feminism in the long run would hopefully be able to help solve. Because women have a lot of things, have a lot of structures of support for themselves that men desperately need. In general, it is more expected for women to do things like go to therapy or have a huge circle of friends, and with said friends, have deep communication with one another, talking about their feelings and talking about like life events and generally just de-stressing with one another. They help each other cope with their daily activities. And stereotypically speaking, men don't have that kind of support system. Men in general are an emotional island unto themselves, and a big reason why so many men abuse so many women is because they latch on to their partners as their entire emotional outlet. If they don't feel like their partners are giving them what they need as far as emotional release goes and as far as physicality goes and all this other kind of stuff, they will take it out on the people they claim to love. They will take it out on that woman, and they will take it out on anybody who just happens to be around. And this is a very common thing, which is why it's so upsetting and so unsettling, and why every man needs to be cognizant of it and needs to evaluate and think and just go, hey, what have I learned and what have I ingrained in my mind throughout the course of my life that is making me react to things in a certain way and is making me think these certain thoughts? And why am I so dead set on remaining one specific way? Because I'm afraid that I will be perceived as something that I don't want to be. Like, a lot of men are afraid of being perceived as like gay because they express their feelings or because they do something that is not considered to be typically masculine. Like I said earlier, like sewing or owning a bunch of dolls or something like that. These are just all things that feminism could help us solve. Women are allowed already to do masculine things, but they're not really allowed to do them very freely because they still have to do masculinity within the frame of femininity. Like, you can't be too masculine or else you start getting like pushed away. But then if you're too feminine, you're not being taken seriously. So they have to find this weird balance. Whereas men have to be like completely on one side of the spectrum, and if they leave that side, they get attacked for it. They get socially policed for it. They get beat back into performing manhood for everybody else. And it's not just out of like personal fear, but it's out of like actual social rejection. And nobody wants to be socially rejected. Unless you're like a recluse who genuinely hates people, which I get it, I'm kind of that myself. You do not want to be a pariah in society. And you don't want to have to worry about people attacking you for just being who you are. Next time you're thinking about feminism or somebody brings it up and you just happen to get like this weird thought in your mind that like, oh, feminism's not that great. It's all about like putting men down and elevating women like above them and stuff like that. It's like, It's literally about bringing visibility to femininity and bringing visibility to the fact that femininity is just as valid as masculinity. They are both okay to indulge in, and that men are allowed to be feminine, women are allowed to be masculine, and as long as they're not hurting anybody in the process of doing that, that should be totally okay. Live your life. Do what you want to do, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else in the process. If you want to wear a wig, wear a wig. If you want to wear high heels, wear high heels. If you want to have a collection of dolls, collect some dolls. It's for you. It's going to make you happy. That's what it's all about. It's about being happy with your own life in your own skin, because you can only experience all these days one time. Don't let yourself be miserable during the entirety of that because you feel some weird need to conform to this thing that society has told you that you need to be. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next one. And if you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it if you liked, commented, and maybe subscribed as well for some future videos. Who knows, maybe I'll put up some more.